Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic and The Examiner. With us today, Kimberly, Freeman, and Jason Rufuss, Sewell, aka Junior of One Eye Doll, the Austin dynamic duo. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Absolutely wonderful. I'm glad to finally get a chance to talk with you. A couple of our good friends of the radio station, Rich and Kimberly Davis, have been beating me upside the head for months now that I haven't spoken with you guys yet, so here we are.
Oh, cool. we love Rich and Kimberly.
Yeah, they're really cool.
And their daughters are beautiful.
See, there you go. You're now famous, you guys. So anyway, thanks for taking the time. I got to tell you, One Eye Doll is a bit of an enigma. You guys get like labeled with 20 different labels: punk, metal, rock, pop, everything. None of it fits, yet all of it fits.
we try to not fit ourselves into a box. We just make whatever kind of music we feel like making, and that gets us into trouble sometimes. We'll end up making an electronic album or something, and people are like, well, "What's going on here?" But we really just do whatever we feel like doing. So
yeah,
it's not up to us to label it.
We kind of just do what comes out of our heads, and don't try to regulate that or stop anything from happening, So what comes out might be kind of off or weird or not our usual, like a typical rock sound, but it's just, that's what artists do, is they just express themselves, whatever they're feeling at the time. That's what you put out.
Well, and I don't think there's a box big enough for all the different sounds and styles you guys come up with, and it's just incredible. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And you guys are also the epitome of a DIY band. I don't know that I've seen any other band that's quite as successful at the do-it-yourself thing as you guys are.
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty. It's definitely our. We're very lucky to be able to make a living on our music and persist on that, and so that we get to spend all of our time on the music.
And it's nice. I mean, in a time when the music industry is in such trouble and disarray, you guys are doing this all on your own. You offer your music for free or for whatever fans are willing to or can afford to pay, and you're still able to continue to make the music and tour and everything. And I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's for us, it's important to get the music out there and allow the music, the art, to flourish throughout the world to whoever wants to listen to it. And then, hopefully those people will buy a shirt or pay to come see a show, or, we'll get income in some other way. But for us, the most important thing is for the music to be out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be putting this music out if we had to live under a bridge and do it. So, it's really awesome that our fans do support us, even though we offer it to them for free. And, our merch, we really do our very best to keep the prices low for our fans and stuff. And it's a little hard these days because the manufacturers and, the companies who actually make the T-shirts and things like that are getting pretty spendy these days, but we're doing our very best.
Well, despite the fact that you do the fans can actually download all of the albums for free, you still seem to run out of the actual physical CDs at your shows and stuff because people are still buying them, even if they have the downloads.
Yeah, I think it's important for bands to keep in mind that the download is cool, but people still want something to hold. It doesn't. Our last album, Dirty, on vinyl. Feel like it's just such a cool thing to have. Just have that relic of music on vinyl that you can have forever.
Yes, and I'm one of the relics that grew up with those. So, well, by way of introducing One Eye Doll to everybody, because there's still so many people who don't know your music and the band and everything, I've got some questions for each of you as well as mutually. Kimberly, let me start with one for you. You spent time in China doing philanthropy work, even learned how to speak Mandarin, I understand. How did that sort of lead you into music and what you're doing now?
Well, honestly, that's kind of where it started. I was teaching over there as a volunteer teaching English, and that led me to a teaching job there, and I ended up, well, long story short, I stayed there a lot longer than I was planning to, between a year and a half instead of, a month. And how do I explain this? Well, my boss at the school I worked for he started taking me to these meetings, and they were with these Communist Party members, kind of important people that he was trying to show off to, get money from, or deal with in some way. And he started bringing me to these things because I was in an area of China where there just were not very many foreigners, and the fact that he had an American teacher was a big deal to him. And he would bring me to these things and sort of show me off. And he one day, he put me in front of these people, and he stood up and tapped his glass or whatever and said, my American songbird is going to sing you a song. And before this, I did not ever think of singing in front of people or doing anything like that. I was shy. Teaching was about as far on stage as I had been since, high school choir or whatever. And so I was totally put on the spot, and I had to do it. So I sang a song and about fainted while I was doing it. I was so scared. And it went over well, apparently, and brought him face or something. And so he kept doing it to me over and over again and over again. And this became like several times a week. And, it went over so well that I decided to start integrating music with my classes and with the children who I was teaching. And I started singing to them, too, and having them sing in order to learn. And it was very the sound of music. You can see me running along the hilltop with the children. But yeah, and I had always been a poet, and once in a while, these poems would just come out in melody. Like, oh, that's a song, I guess. Well, too bad I'm shy. I'll never sing it to anyone, And so I would just kind of sing them to myself in private, make sure nobody could hear me. But I started bringing some of those songs out in the classroom in China, and I didn't tell the children that I had written them, and I would mix it up. I'd sing a Johnny Cash tune, a Patsy Cline, and then one of my songs maybe. And they went over really well, and that's kind of a tough audience, 70, 11 and 12-year-olds. So I decided that if and when I made it back to the U.S., that maybe I would sing my songs for people here. And so it really all started in China.
Thank you, Communist Party member, for discovering Kimberly's voice.
No pressure. I figured, that was trial by fire. And then my first performance when I got to the U.S., and I figured out, that I was going to do it, was at a funeral. It was at a traditional outside Catholic funeral.
Wow.
For a young man in his 20s who had died tragically and suddenly. And I didn't know this guy. Like, I knew his brother, and I was asked to do it. And I sang all of Amazing Grace. I think isn't it 5 verses long or something? And I sang all of Amazing Grace a cappella outside at this funeral with this poor guy's mother just wailing over me the whole time. It was, I was trying so hard not to cry and stop singing. I had to keep singing. So I figured, okay, after the Communist Party member meetings, the classrooms in China, and this funeral, I think I can handle it.
Yeah, if you can do that, you can stand up to any metal or punk crowd. Jesus.
Right. I think it makes it a little bit easier just that those were my first experiences with performance. It's like, it doesn't get much more difficult than that. It's gotten close, I'll tell you.
You can actually, we have a version of Amazing Grace on our music page at music.oneeyeddoll.com, and you can feel free to download it and check it out if you'd like.
Yeah, is that still...
I think it's still up there.
It's still up there. I saw it. Absolutely.
We did a little dedication to a really awesome fan who passed away recently. I decided to put out my first cover song.
Yeah, it's sort of taking you 360 there. But now, Jason, you are at heart a producer. So I have to ask, working on these last two albums with Sylvia Massy, what was that experience like for you?
It was amazing. You know, one of my big goals in life, ever since I was a little kid, basically, was that I wanted to get into a real studio with a legendary producer. You know, and that. You know, a lot of people get into music for all kinds of reasons: girls, drugs, partying, whatever. But for me, I wanted to be successful enough to be able to work with really talented producers in a world-class studio. That was my goal. And so when I joined this band, it was like, you know, I really was focused on that particular goal. And and Kimberly got this email. You know, Kimberly's more than happy just to record with me in our house, you know, in the bedroom.
And little did I know about these goals of his, because I was getting emails from producers constantly, and I was blowing them off because I like working with him so much. And I didn't know who these people were because I just don't know names. You know, I don't know industry names. I never really looked people up. And so, but I didn't, you know, little did I know. I mean, these could have been the kind of people that he wanted to work with. But I was thinking of this, you know, I had this loyalty thing in mind, and I'm so satisfied with Jason's production. I'm not just going to go to some other producer. But it was so funny that the one time that I showed him one of these emails, it happened to be Sylvia Massy.
You know, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, do you know who this is?
I'm like, oh, don't worry, Jason. I'm not going to work with anyone else. I just wanted to show you this because I think it's cool because she's a girl. And then, this is a girl producer.
So I immediately emailed her back and I said, yes, we are going to come into the studio. So it took about 6 months or so to figure out how we were going to pay for it and get there. You know, we live in Texas and the studio's in Northern California. So
we sold everything we had.
Yeah, basically, you know, to tell you how dedicated I am to this cause, I basically took my life collection of vintage recording equipment in my own studio and sold it all so that we could, except for the bare minimum that we need to record, you know, vocals and stuff like that.
Wow.
I mean, we literally, even now, have like a microphone and his bare bones recording stuff.
You know, that's all we need. I had a lot of things that I had collected over the years that, you know, it's cool to have, you know, but for the most part, as a touring band, I feel more comfortable not having this like massive collection of, you know, vintage studio gear that I can't watch over, you know, because we're on the road all the time. So right. Now it's like, well, if I get my one microphone and preamp stolen while we're gone, you know, I can replace it.
Well, it's kind of a lot of times we bring stuff with us so that we can record on the road too, which is kind of cool to have compact situation.
And in 2012, the recording technology is so it's so compact and high quality that you really don't need all of this, you know, big studio stuff. So I think we're more comfortable now just saving the like real big studio experiences for a real studio, and we can just go in when we're ready to record an album, and that's cool. And at home, you know, we've got everything we need to do vocals and all the pre-production and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but the first albums, Hole and Monster, you know, they're literally recorded in my bedroom. They're not, you know, that's why I feel really strongly about re-recording a lot of those songs. You know, the Dirty album features 3 songs that were on the Monster album, and we just re-recorded Committed, which is one of our favorite songs.
Oh, the studio story on that is great too.
But yeah, we when we went to record with Sylvia, you know, I wanted to record those songs right, not bedroom style. She's got this Neve console from the '60s, and she has the compressor that was built by George Martin for the Beatles, and it's in this massive Art Deco movie theater, and it's just that's the way these songs needed to be recorded. So, we get some people like, oh, you ran out of material. Why are you recording the same song again? It's like, we want to do these songs justice, so that's why you'll see a few of our favorites being done again with Sylvia.
No, we'll never run out of material.
I was going to say, you're pretty prolific. I don't see that ever being an issue. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I have this fear of. I actually have bad dreams about this of not ever being able to record all of my songs. Just not having enough time in my life to be able to do it, and I would just feel so incomplete.
Just to let you guys know, there's about 100 songs that are out there that haven't been recorded but aren't finished yet.
And
we got a lot of work.
It's kind of like, I don't know, and I don't feel like I'm just constantly pushing out songs or anything. I only write when I'm really inspired to, but and it just happens, It's not always convenient when a song decides to happen.
Well, when you're stuck in a van driving around touring all the time, or when you're home living under the bridge on chicken McNuggets and half-burnt marshmallows, what else is there to do but write?
Exactly. We do not condone chicken McNuggets, by the way.
I have some of those Morningstar chicken substitute meatless nuggets in the freezer. Yeah, they're like, you've ever had tofurkey? They kind of squeak in your teeth. Squeak, squeak.
You realize
anyway.
This means I'm now going to have to contact Revolver and tell them to remove you from the hottest chicks in hard rock now.
I would be a cannibal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've basically gone against the whole principle of the thing. So,
and I'm freezing right now. I'm not hot. My feet are cold. Actually, more like a cold frog of hard rock.
And I want to get back to talking about the album in just a second, but since we're on this topic, given, the incredible songwriting that you do, your gift for guitar playing, which has already been noticed, which is significantly more important to me than what you look like. How do you feel about getting? Because this is the second year in a row I think you've gotten that honor. Do you think it in some way degrades or debases who you are as a musician or even as a woman, or do you just not even think about that crap anymore?
Oh, it's a huge honor to be recognized in some way, especially by a big magazine like Revolver or Guitar Player. Really, it's just, I appreciate it. It's really very encouraging to me to get that kind of attention. As artists, artists are always so split, in our own minds. Part of us is just happy making music and doesn't, we don't, or paintings or whatever we do, and we don't feel like we need recognition for it or whatever. But then the other part of us really does need that recognition. We need a little affirmation. And this is why we put our stuff out there, so that people can appreciate it. And, the hottest chicks in hard rock thing, when that term was first brought up to me, I was like, what? That's so not me. But then I looked into it, and I think it's pretty cool. They actually did a really in-depth interview with me, made me really, really think a lot about things and
tofu and marshmallows.
Yeah. And
they posted the whole thing on the website too.
Yeah, there's this really long, really in-depth, very deep interview. So it actually, I think it's awesome. It's fun.
Rock and roll is it's half music and half image. That's just the way it is. People who don't like image being a part of rock and roll, it's like Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all the bands that created rock and roll. Elvis Presley, it's music and image and rocking and hot and all that. And rock and roll is.
I think the hotness part is all of this sort of a perception. I've never been a hot chick. It's just.
Is she really that modest, Jason?
I think she's crazy. I wouldn't call it modest. I call it crazy. But
if you could see me at this very moment, what I normally much my hair is sticking straight up in the air.
Well, anytime you can be put in the same group with Nancy Wilson, Bonnie Raitt, or on the other side the newer talents like Lizzie Hale and stuff. That's great company to be in, so congratulations there.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I'll admit, the first time early last year that Revolver featured me as the hottest chick in hard rock, I was a little, I questioned myself a little bit, like, wow, is this really... Is this the only way that national press is going to recognize our band, as far as it's just, my being a girl or whatever, and the hottest chicks thing. And so I wondered a little bit, like, but then, it was just right after that Guitar Player magazine, without telling me about it or anything, totally surprised me with this, what was it?
20 most extraordinary female guitarists of all time.
Right, it's like a top 20 female guitarist list, and it was all about the music. It had nothing to do with, they didn't even mention what I look like. Obviously there's a picture of me, but I was like holding a guitar behind my head with my tongue sticking out, like,
so it all balances out then.
That was a little bit, because some people at the time, even told me, industry type people said, well, Kimberly, unfortunately, this is the only way that a female artist is going to be recognized, so just get used to it with the hottest chicks thing. And I'm like, well, okay. And then the Guitar Player thing happened, and they just completely wiped that theory out. And it made me feel a lot better to be recognized both ways. And it does balance because, I think that both of those things are great things to be recognized for. Not just one or the other, but both.
Well, and Jason is anxiously waiting by his computer for Playgirl or some other magazine to tap him for the sexiest producers.
Seriously. Well, do you know Revolver actually does the hottest guy?
Yeah, but I've looked at that, and half the guys really look more like girls. It's very emo, except for maybe Corey or whatnot. But
I mean, that just tells you about what's the standard. That's going to change all the time, I'm sure.
That reminds me of I'll preface this with that I am definitely at least 98% heterosexual. but when the first Poison album came out, man, those chicks were hot. And I remember just being like, I mean, they just nailed it, because it's like, okay, Motley Crue, they looked like girls, but you knew they were boys, That Poison album, I think it was Look What the Cat Dragged In, I think it's the one.
Right.
Like, if you look at that cover, you're like, okay, those are poor hot chicks.
Oh.
And I don't care what anybody says, drag queens are hot, and, I don't know, it's interesting to see, the fashion culture and the music scene culture change images, and, it goes from one extreme to the other, and I think right now there's kind of this Nikki Sixx thing happening, with out of nowhere, like all of a sudden it's all about the glam again,
right?
With a lot of guys, and that's totally cool with me. I love boys that wear makeup. Yeah,
but now they're all starting to look like you. Is that?
Well, like me.
Yeah, with the, I mean, looking all thin, lithe, sexy, the makeup, the glitter. It's like...
Well, I'm just trying to look like Freddie Mercury or David Bowie. So.
Well, that comes from the inside. The outward stuff, that's just your personality. But I've only got a couple more minutes with you because I have another interview I have to do in just a few minutes. But we're going to have to do this again sometime and do part 2 of this. But before we leave, you guys released Dirty earlier this year. The first one you did with Sylvia, I believe. You're getting ready to release Committed after the beginning of the year, and the video for that was extraordinary, by the way. We actually premiered it on Metalholic.com a few weeks ago when it came out.
Thank you.
So, and I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you about all this stuff. So we're going to definitely have to do this again, but give us, if you will, before we get out of here, just an idea of what fans can expect from the Committed album.
I'd say, Dirty was the kind of, dirty and kind of gritty, depressing, almost depressing, slow kind of album.
Yeah, a lot more classic rock, bluesy bass.
Yeah, that had the, 70s feel to it. This one is more...
really analog-y.
This one is the other side of that. This one is the upbeat, bright... rockin' album. So
yeah, think of songs like Committed, Be My Friend, Scapegoat, those kind of more really upbeat, fun songs, real rockin'. It's kind of like if Dirty was the color of swamp green, this one is bright colored like a rainbow or yellow.
Yeah, Turn It Around is...
those very yellow Mustangs,
Turn It Around has been stuck in my head all day. So
that's one of my favorites. I hope that one becomes a popular song.
One more quick question before we get out of here. What was it like shooting that video for Committed? Because it's a great video.
Cold.
Freezing cold. I was barefoot almost the whole time in the sleet in Pennsylvania in December.
Yeah, it was raining and snowing and sleeting, and there was no electricity. So, we went out to this place. It's basically a, haunted attraction in the middle of Pennsylvania, and it was so cold. And there was no electricity, no heat, no light, no nothing. Everything was battery powered. So
it was totally painful and totally worth it.
Yeah,
it turned out great.
Patrick's the status.
Yeah. He puts us in painful situations to bring out that,
I think he does.
Real pain.
He's amazing. He's so funny.
Kimberly Freeman and Junior, of course, of One Eye Doll, thanks so much for taking the time. We will conclude part 1 of our interview, and we definitely have to do part 2 because there's just so much more to talk about. Thanks again so much for taking the time.
Let's do that ASAP. Hit us back anytime.
Absolutely. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Thanks a lot, man.
Bye.
Bye.